So when you approach a new City Spies, this is a good time to ask since you're working on book 5 as we talk. What do you start with? Do you sit down and say, okay, this is the emotional arc that I want to achieve? Do you have some kind of plot, or do you just go by your pants and fill it in as you go? What's your starting point?
There's two or three basic starting points. So City Spies, like I said, it's 5 kids fall into the cracks. Each has their own special thing. They use as their code names the cities that they're from. So there's Brooklyn and Rio and Sydney and Cat from Kathmandu and Paris are the 5 kids. Well, we made a decision really early on in the conceptual phase that the books would have different main characters. So we would rotate between those 4 kids, who's really kind of the lead. And they're not so much the protagonists as they're the plus one. So Paris is going to lead the way. The other 4 are going to be right there. So I know at each story, I need to address 5 story arcs. So each of the kids really. The other thing that's wonderful, but also then adds to it is, I know from talking to kids, young readers, everyone has their favorites and they're all different. So it's like I can't ignore Cat for a book because I will alienate 1/5 of the readers, right? So they all have to have their stories, but someone has a major story that's more about them. So the first 2 things I need to know at the start of the book is who's the lead and where's the final destination of the book, because what's going to be on the cover. What's the cover art? The idea at the very beginning was as simple as each cover has a famous landmark and you're going to know where you're going the second you see it. Oh, it's going to end up in Paris. Oh, it's going to end up at the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And so I need to know where it's going. And then I try to combine those things. And then very early, if not really at the very beginning, though, is like, what's the problem this time? What's the conflict that main character is going through? And how do I make it different so it doesn't feel like, Murder, She Wrote, and every week someone else gets knocked off in Cabot Cove and she's got to figure it out. I want them to feel different each time. I want them to feel like, oh, this one is more action, or oh, this one's technological, oh, this one, but still true to themselves. So that's the balance. The beginning half of the process, there's a lot of back and forth of trying to wedge in all the elements so they don't feel wedged in. So, okay, so we're going to have, there's code, there's excitement, okay, there's a couple thrilling locations, there is a very, I feel like the plot line is already on the edge, right? It's 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds who are working for MI6. So if that seems out of the norm, I better make sure that the conflicts these kids are going through hit home, that they are what kids go through everyday life, what found family is like. Because found family is a very big part of these books for me. To me, the books are really ultimately about these 5 kids and these 2 adults from all different places forming a family that's a real family. And their family first, spy second. And how the decisions play out because of that. And what that means to be a family. And so I'm wrestling with that. And once I feel like I've got a good, okay, I know what that conflict is. I know who my main character is. I know kind of where we're headed. What's the mystery? Just on a basic one. And I have those elements. Okay, now I can write. And that's really up until that. So that's all part of the writing process. But you're not really putting any words on the page until those things are figured out. And once I have that, then it's hopefully off to the races. But usually they're tortoise races, not thoroughbred races. It's still slow. It's still a slow process. But yeah, but I'm getting better at it hopefully now. 10 books in.
I want to see the unwritten episode of Murder, She Wrote where Angela looks around and says, oh my God, everyone in town has finally been murdered. They're all dead now, and I guess the murderer must be me, just by default.
That's where it was headed. That's where I think it would. Now, that would have been the bold Newhart ending, right? That she wakes up at the end and then she's in prison. And it's like, oh, she's killed them all. But no. So, no.
So, so you've got your outline, you know what your conflict's going to be. So what does the writing process, is a tortoise race, what does that tortoise race look like? You get up every day and you're working on a little bit, or is it in short tortoisey sprints?
I don't have an outline. I have elements, but I don't really outline. I try to flesh out an outline of sorts the first, say, quarter of it. So then my hope is to always stay ahead a few chapters of, okay, now we're heading in this direction. So I like discovery along the way, but I also like to know that, it's not aimless discovery. Um, no, the beauty is I no longer work in television. I loved it, but I'm happy to be over it. I wake up early every morning because my wife's a high school teacher and she gets up early. I walk the dog and I sit here in this room and I start trying to write. And I try to write through the morning and a good part of the afternoon. And then when the creative stuff falls off in my brain, I try to shift over to the other things, websites, promotion, research. What are you doing 2 books from now? And all that kind of stuff. I'm at the point now where, but I always fall behind at that, and I'm at the point now where this book is literally due in about a week, and so I am wake up at 5, start writing, walk the dog at 7, keep writing, go to bed, walk the dog a couple more times, eat a couple of times, and go to bed at midnight to wake up at 5 and start over the next day. And it's just write all day trying to get through this at the end. But it's also kind of fun because with mystery, so much of it is setup that once the dominoes have all finally been set up, you get to watch them start to fall. And at that point, the writing, by necessity, but also by design, does go faster.
2 weeks. I appreciate you making time to chat with me
Oh,
today.
for you? No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, what about you? How is your writing process? Is it different than that? Is it similar than that?
Pretty similar. So obviously, the closer we get to deadline time, but my deadlines are artificially manufactured. I say it has to be done by then, but it's
Right.
specifically so I have enough time to rewrite. I'm a far better rewriter than I am a writer.
Okay. The thing that I do a lot is I rewrite a lot as I go along. So like a lot of time, like usually on a Monday, I'll go back like 5 or 6 chapters and I will reread them and tweak them along the way and then have a running speed when I get to the current chapter. But then I keep doing that. I've gone over those chapters a lot. Not to say I don't do a ton of rewrite, but for me, I need to keep rewriting throughout. And then I'll give it to my editor, and then we'll rewrite it again with her. And then I'll have another voice telling me what does and doesn't work. Um, but for the longest time, because I worked television, I did all my writing late at night or on the weekends. So I would write until 3 or 4 in the morning with sweet tea and Mountain Dew or something like that to keep me up, and it just wasn't a healthy way to live. So now I'm now, but what I find that's odd is now that I've been able to do this all the time, I can't stay up. I've eliminated caffeine from my life, but I can't stay up late. I try. I can maybe write to midnight or 1 a.m. But boy, I don't know what the return on the investment is at that point. So I like this. I like daytime writing. It's nice. I'm awake. I'm alert. It's very good.